The morning was crisp and clean. It smelled like ozone and recycled air. Dr. Jiun Park stood in her small apartment kitchen, holding a warm cup of tea. She looked out the large window. The city of New Seoul stretched below her. Shuttles flew between tall, shining towers. It was a beautiful view, but her mind was far away. It was lost in thoughts of dust and ancient ruins. "You're thinking about them again, aren't you?" a voice said. Min-soo walked into the room. He was a terraforming engineer. His hands were often stained with soil samples. Today they were clean. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. June smiled, leaning into his touch. "It's the big lecture today," she said. "The new data crystal findings. I have to get it right." "You always get it right," Min-soo said. He took a piece of toast. "It's just more ancient dust. Beautiful, fascinating dust. But dust all the same."
Yeon left.
It was their old joke. To him, her work was about dead things and forgotten places. His work was about creating new worlds from nothing. He built futures. She dug up pasts. "This dust changed the galaxy, Min-soo," she said softly. "The silent compact. They were peaceful. They were kind. They built without destroying. Then one day they were just gone. 10,000 years ago. I want people to understand what we lost." Min-soo kissed her forehead. "They will. Because you'll show them. Just remember to come back to the present when you're done. Dinner? My treat." "Promise," she said. After he left, June got ready. She put on her formal lecture suit. It was a simple, dark blue outfit. She looked at herself in the mirror. A young human woman, about to tell a room full of beings about an empire of light. Sometimes it felt silly, but the data in her files was real. The mystery was real. The Interstellar University of New Seoul was a busy place. Students of many species walked the bright halls. June walked to the main auditorium. Her steps were quiet. Her heart beat fast. The hall was called the Starfall Auditorium. Could hold 500 people. Today it was almost full. There were humans, of course, but there were also others. A group of Taklith scholars sat near the front. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and large, dark eyes. They were known for their own ancient history. They watched her with calm, serious faces. In the middle rows, a few Vel, who looked like small, furry bipeds, chattered excitedly. In the back, a hulking Born miner sat politely, his rocky body taking up 2 seats. June placed her datapad on the podium. The lights in the room dimmed. A huge screen lit up behind her. It showed a simple title, The Silent Compact, Echoes of a Vanished Harmony. "Thank you all for coming," Ji-yoon began. Her voice was clear in the quiet room. "For most of galactic history, the story of progress has been loud. It has been about wars, conquests, and great clashes. But today I speak of a different story, a quiet one, the story of the Silent Compact." She showed images. They were not of warships or grand battles. They were of cities that seemed grown, not built. They blended into forests and mountains. She showed art that was made of shaped light and living crystal. Music notes from their culture appeared on screen. They were based on mathematical patterns found in star vibrations. "They did not conquer," Ji-yoon explained. "They connected. Their technology was part of their biology. A compact citizen could talk to their ships. They could shape their homes with a thought. They lived in perfect balance with their worlds. They left no scar upon the galaxy." A student, a young human man named Dae-hyun, raised his hand. "But why did they disappear? If they were so powerful, what could destroy them?"
Yeon nodded.
This was the great question. The evidence shows no war,
No plague.
no natural disaster. It is as if one day they simply turned off the lights. They packed away their greatest works and vanished. The leading theory is of voluntary transcendence. They moved to a higher plane of existence. Murmurs went through the crowd. The idea was grand and sad. A whole civilization, choosing to leave. "For centuries," Ji-yoon continued, "we have found only fragments, broken crystals, empty cities. Until now." She clicked her datapad. The screen showed a new image. It was a crystal about the size of a human hand. It glowed with a soft, inner blue light. This was recovered 3 months ago from the ruins of a world called Lyra Prime. It is a complete data crystal, the first of its kind. Standard decoding methods failed. It was like a book with no words. So my team and I tried something new. We used a linguistic algorithm. It looks for patterns not in language, but in concept, in feeling. She took a deep breath. This was the moment. We found a hidden layer, a message behind the silence. The screen changed. Complex schematics appeared. Flowing energy maps. Architectural plans for a structure that looked like a blossoming flower. The audience leaned forward. This was new. This was direct knowledge. "This is how they built," Ji-yoon said, her voice filled with wonder. "This is how they thought. It is more beautiful than we imagined." Then she clicked to the final file. The one marked with a simple symbol, the algorithm translated as joy memory. "And this," she said, "is the first visual record we have ever recovered of a compact citizen." The image filled the screen. The being was stunning. It was humanoid in shape, but made of shifting, gentle light. Its form seemed both solid and like a glowing mist. It stood before a towering crystal spire that reached into a pink and orange sky. It wore robes that flowed like liquid silver. Patterns moved on the robes, like tiny stars swirling. The being's face was peaceful, kind. It felt wise and young all at once. A wave of awe passed through the auditorium. For a long moment, no one spoke. They were looking at a ghost of the most wonderful empire that ever was. A human student in the front row, a young woman named Soo-hyun, squinted at the screen. Something about the image bothered her, tickled a memory. While everyone else stared at the being's face, she looked at the patterns on its robe. The tiny, swirling stars. She had seen that pattern before, many times. Quietly, she pulled out her personal datapad. She opened a photo. It was a picture of her own hand, wearing her university graduation ring from last year. She zoomed in on the ring's band. It was covered in a micro-engraving, a tradition at the university. A pattern of tiny, swirling stars. Her blood went cold. She looked at the screen. She looked at her datapad. They were the same, exactly the same. Her hand shot into the air. Her voice, sharp with confusion and a sudden, deep fear, cut through the respectful silence. "Dr. Park!" Ji-yoon, pulled from her own reverie, blinked. "Yes, Soo-hyun." Soo-hyun stood up. She pointed at the magnificent, alien being on the giant screen. She held up her datapad, showing the ring. "Why are you showing my graduation picture?" The silence in the auditorium did not last. It shattered into 100 pieces. A wave of confused noise washed over the room. Students turned to look at Soo-hyun. They looked back at the screen. Whispers became loud questions. The tactless scholars in the front row went very still, their large, dark eyes fixed on Soo-hyun, then on Ji-yoon. Ji-yoon stood frozen at the podium. Her mind, so full of ancient data a second ago, went completely blank. She stared at the young woman. Soo-hyun Lee was a good student, quiet but sharp. She was not someone who made jokes during important lectures.
I'm sorry.
Ji-yoon finally managed to say. Her voice sounded small in the microphone. Soo-hyun walked into the aisle. She held her datapad high. On it was a clear, zoomed-in image of a silver ring. It had a simple blue stone. Around the band was a detailed engraving, a pattern of small, interconnected swirls and dots. She pointed back at the giant screen, at the robes of the luminous being. The pattern flowing there was not just similar. It was a perfect match. The same curves, the same spacing. "The pattern," Soo-hyun said, her voice gaining strength. "On its clothing. It's the university's graduation ring pattern. The class of 2320. I have it on my ring. Everyone who graduated with me has it. See." A few other students in the audience looked at their own hands. Murmurs of confirmation spread. "She's right," someone said. "That's the micro-engraving." Ji-yoon's colleague, Dr. Taeshik Kim, was sitting in the first row. He was an older man, an expert in material analysis. He stood up and moved closer to the screen. He pushed his glasses up his nose. He looked from the datapad in Soo-hyun's hand to the alien robes. His face, usually calm, went pale. "Ji-un," he said quietly, but his voice carried. "Zoom in. Section G7 of the image." With trembling fingers, Ji-un manipulated her datapad. The screen focused on a part of the flowing silver robe. The pattern became crystal clear. It was undeniable. It was not a natural formation. It was a designed, intricate symbol, and it was currently worn by thousands of human graduates across the planet. The head Taklith scholar stood up. He was tall and very thin. His name was Dr. Kalin. He did not look at the students. He looked only at Ji-un. His expression was unreadable. Then, without a word, he turned. He walked quickly up the aisle. The other Taklith followed him. They left the auditorium. The heavy door hissed shut behind them. Their sudden departure sent a new chill through the room. The presentation was over. The mystery of the silent compact was forgotten. A new, immediate mystery had taken its place. "Class is dismissed," Ji-un said, her voice firm but shaky. "Please, everyone, go." There were protests, more questions. But the look on Dr. Park's face stopped them. The students slowly gathered their things and filed out, talking loudly. Their excited voices echoed in the hall. Soon, only 3 people remained: Ji-un, Tae-shik, and Soo-hyun. The screen still glowed with the image of the being. Its peaceful smile now seemed strange, knowing. The 3 of them stood in the empty space before the podium. No one knew what to say. Tae-shik broke the silence. "We must go to the lab. Now." He looked at Soo-hyun. "You come with us, and bring that ring." They did not speak in the transit tube. The ride to the archaeology wing was silent. Each person was lost in their own thoughts. Ji-un felt a tight fear in her chest. Her life's work was built on careful study and proof. This was not proof. This was an impossibility. A joke of the universe. They entered Ji-un's lab. It was a clean room filled with scanners, holographic tables, and secure cases holding artifacts. Tae-shik went straight to the main analysis console. "Give me the ring, please," he said to Soo-hyun. Soo-hyun pulled the ring off her finger. She handed it to him, felt warm from her skin. Tae-shik placed it gently inside a molecular scanner. He put a fragment of the Lyra Prime data crystal in the scanner next to it. "Comparing material composition and residual energy signatures," he said. His fingers flew over the controls. Ji-un turned to Soo-hyun. "Tell me about the ring. Is it a family piece?" Soo-hyun nodded. She looked scared but focused. "My mother gave it to me. She was a geologist. She died 2 years ago. She said it was passed to her. She never said from who. I just thought it was a nice old ring. I had the university add the graduation engraving last year." The scanner beeped. Results flashed on the main screen. Tae-shik stared at them. He read the data twice. "This is not possible," he whispered. "What?" Ji-un moved to his side. "The ring," Tae-shik said, pointing at the readout. "The base metal. It is an alloy. It has platinum, yes, but also traces of 3 elements. They have no atomic numbers I recognize. They are not on our periodic table. They are not from our solar system, not from any system in our known database." He pointed to the data crystal fragment. "These same 3 unknown elements are present in the crystal. In the same ratio. This ring, Ji-un, is made from the same material as a silent compact data crystal. It is 10,000 years old, at least." The room spun around Ji-un. She held onto the console. "But the pattern," Soo-hyun said. "The pattern," Tae-shik said. He pulled up another program. "Let's test a theory." He took the visual data of the compact's light language symbols from the crystal. He fed them into the university's linguistic mainframe. Then he gave it a new command: find conceptual matches in human archaic language roots. The computer hummed. It began to spit out results. Lines of text scrolled down the screen. Proto-Indo-European word for star. H2STR. The compact symbol for primary energy source was a visual echo. Proto-Korean root 4 to weave / to connect *, ja dash. The compact symbol for neural network was nearly identical. Symbol after symbol matched. It was not a direct translation. It was something deeper, like a parent language giving birth to two children. The graceful, light-based symbols of the compact and the clumsy, early scribbles of humanity were coming from the same source. They didn't just contact us, Jiun said, her voice a hollow whisper. The truth was too big to say loudly. They didn't just visit. This is not first contact. She looked at Soo-hyun. She looked at the ring, a piece of a lost empire sitting in their scanner. She finished the thought they were all having. This is a homecoming. The silent compact. They were us. The word us hung in the air of the lab. Felt too big for the small, clean room. For a long moment no one spoke. The only sound was the gentle hum of the computers. Soo-hyun was the first to move. She walked slowly to the scanner and took her ring back. Felt different now. Heavy. Not with weight, but with meaning. She looked at the tiny, swirling stars. They were not a university tradition. They were a message. A message 10,000 years old, worn on the fingers of graduates who never knew. This can't be right, Taeshik said, but his voice had no force. He was staring at the linguistic matches on the screen. The evidence was there. It was like finding a modern sentence carved in a dinosaur bone. Humanity, we evolved on Earth. The fossils prove it. Our history is what?
Yeon interrupted softly.
She leaned against the console. Her legs felt weak. A story with missing pages. Sudden leaps in art, in technology, that anthropologists can never fully explain. What if those weren't leaps? What if they were memories? Waking up. The idea was terrifying and wonderful. It meant humans were not who they thought they were. Their loneliness in the universe was a lie. Their ancient, brilliant ancestors were not gone. They were standing right here, in lab coats and student clothes. We have to tell someone, Soo-hyun said. The university board. The Planetary Science Council. No, the word was sharp. It came from the doorway. Dr. Kalen, the Taklith scholar, stood there. He had entered without a sound. His tall, gray form seemed to fill the doorway. His large, dark eyes looked at each of them. He did not look angry. He looked tired. Deeply, sadly tired. You cannot tell anyone, he said. His voice was a low, smooth hum. Dr. Kalen, June began, stepping forward. You left so abruptly. Do you know what this means? I know more than you can yet understand, Kalen said. He walked fully into the lab. He moved with a quiet grace. He glanced at the screen showing the linguistic matches. A look of profound resignation passed over his face. I had hoped your decoding would fail. I had prayed the key would remain lost. The key? Taeshik asked. To the truth. And to the lock. Kalen folded his long hands in front of him. Your conclusion is correct, Dr. Park, but it is also dangerously incomplete. The silent compact did not become humanity. They created you, or rather, they seeded you. He began to tell a story. It was not a story from a human history book. It was a galactic secret. Long ago, the compact was the light of this spiral arm. They were peacekeepers, wisdom bearers. But a threat came. Not a threat of ships and soldiers. A cognitive parasite. A dark wave that consumed not bodies, but minds, cultures, memory. It turned civilizations into hollow, screaming shells before they went silent forever. The lab felt colder. Soo-hyun gripped her ring tightly. The compact fought, Kalen continued. But their weapons of light and connection were useless. The parasite fed on them. So they made a choice. Terrible, glorious choice. They built a quarantine. A prison of space and silence around your solar system. They hid the young, vibrant Earth inside it. Then, they broke themselves. Broke, June whispered. They shattered their own collective consciousness. They stripped their technology back to its roots. They imprinted their genetic essence, their cultural core, into the primitive life of that hidden world. They turned their empire into a seed. And then, they lured the parasite into the heart of their greatest, empty city. And they activated a final, silent weapon. A weapon of utter stillness. It froze the parasite in a moment of time, and it froze what was left of the compact there with it. A trap for eternity. He pointed a long finger at Soo-hyun. Her ring. It is not jewelry. It is a marker. A piece of the lock on that prison door. The pattern is a quarantine identifier. Says air. Protected. Sleeping. By decoding the crystal and connecting it to a living air, you have sent a signal. A small ping into the old silent systems. June's blood ran cold. What kind of signal? A status check signal, Kalen said. To the prison systems. And perhaps, a dinner bell to the thing in the dark. The parasite is not dead. It is suspended. It dreams of the compact's energy signature. Your research, Dr. Park, has just shown a very bright light on Earth, saying, the compact's children are here. Just then, Jiun's personal comm device buzzed. It was Min-soo. His face appeared on the screen. He was in the control room of his terraforming outpost near Mars. He looked confused and worried. Jiun, are you watching the solar net? He asked. His voice was tight. No. What's happening? We're getting readings from the outer solar system, beyond the Kuiper belt. Anomalous energy. It's not radiation. It's not a particle stream. It's like a wave of wrongness. It's messing with subspace comms. And the crew here, people are getting angry over nothing. Seeing shadows. Feeling a deep, cold fear for no reason. It's like a mood is spreading. A bad one. Min-soo's description matched the oldest compact records of the parasite's approach. It did not attack matter. It attacked the mind. It fed on fear and discord, turning cohesion into chaos. Kalen closed his eyes. It has sensed the ping. The ancient quarantine is still active, so it cannot move quickly. But it is coming. It is reorienting itself after 10,000 years of sleep. It is coming for its old enemy. And it will find, not the mighty compact, but their children. Scattered. Unaware. Divided. He opened his eyes and looked at the three humans. You have awakened your inheritance. And in doing so, you have awakened the thing that was meant to sleep forever. The war you thought was history is your tomorrow. The silence in the lab was thick. It was broken only by the soft, worried voice of Min-soo from the comm device. June, what's going on down there? The readings are getting stranger. June looked at Kalen's solemn face, then at the fear in Soo-hyun's eyes. Min-soo, I need you to listen very carefully. Gather all the data on that wave. Every single reading. Send it to my secure lab server. Then, be careful. Stay with your crew. Don't let anyone be alone. Jiun, you're scaring me. I'm scaring myself, she said honestly. Just please do it. I'll explain soon. She ended the call. The room felt smaller. Dr. Taeshik was the first to break the tension. He was a scientist. His mind needed to work. Okay. Problem. A big one. We have data. We have a hypothesis. We need a plan. He turned to Kalen. You said they had a weapon. A final weapon of utter stillness. What was it? Can we build it? Kalen gave a slow, sad shake of his head. You do not understand. It was not a device. It was a state of being. The compact's great power was unity, a shared consciousness of peace and creation. The parasite feeds on the opposite, on chaos, fear, and separation. The compact's final act was to become perfectly, collectively still. To present no chaos, no fear for the parasite to consume. They became a mirror. It froze them, and in doing so, trapped it. So we just have to be still and peaceful? Soo-hyun asked, her voice full of doubt. With that thing coming? How? That is the question of your species' life, Kalen said. The compact had millennia to master their collective mind. You have had 10,000 years of believing you are alone in your skulls. You fight, you fear, you disagree. You are the perfect food for it. June began to pace. Her thoughts were moving fast. But we're not just regular humans. Not according to this. We're heirs. The seed has been growing. Our art, our music, our drive to connect. That's the inheritance waking up. The university's neural net, the global cultural link. It was built for sharing art and ideas across the planet. It connects billions of minds in a light network. Taeshik's eyes lit up. It's a crude version, a baby version of what they had. We use it for lectures and concerts. What if we used it for something else? June said, stopping. She looked at Soo-hyun's hand. We have a key, the ring, a genuine compact artifact. It's made to interface with their systems. What if we used it to tune the cultural link? To broadcast not just a song, but the feeling of the compact. That state of being? Kalen considered this. It is a desperate gamble. The link is primitive. The signal would be weak, messy, like a child humming a grand symphony. But it might be enough, June insisted. If the parasite is looking for the compact signature, and we broadcast an echo of it, maybe it confuses it. Maybe it shows we are not chaotic food, but waking heirs. Or it might draw it here faster, like a moth to a flame, Kalen countered. They were interrupted by an alert on Taeshik's console. It was the data from Minsu. Graphs and strange waveforms filled the screen. The anomaly was a ripple in reality itself, moving steadily inward. And there were new reports scrolling alongside it. Disturbance alerts from stations on Jupiter's moons. Unexplained conflicts breaking out on a Martian orbital platform. A deep, pervasive sense of dread noted in crew psych evaluations across the system. The parasite was not just coming. Its influence was already spreading, like a poison in the water of thought. We don't have a choice, Taeshik said, his voice grim. We have to try. We have to tell the authorities. Get them to help us use the global link. They will not believe you, Kalen said simply. My people have tried in hints and whispers for centuries. Your leaders will call it a hoax, a panic. They will waste precious time in meetings. By the time they believe, the fear will have taken root in them too. He was right. June knew it. A story about a lost empire and a mind-eating ghost from the dark? They would be laughed at or worse, detained. Then we don't tell them the whole story, June said, a plan forming. We use our access. Taeshik, you have senior clearance to the Link's academic modulation systems. I have the xenoarchaeological database, which now includes the Compact's Joy memory file, that graduation symphony. Soo-hyun has the key. She looked at the young student. Soo-hyun, this is your choice. This ring, it's your family. It's your responsibility. Are you willing to risk it? To help us try? Soo-hyun looked at the simple silver band. She thought of her mother, the geologist, who had held this piece of another time. She thought of the peaceful being in the picture. She nodded. What do I need to do? We need to go back to the Starfall Auditorium, June said. It's the main nexus for the university's part of the link. The amplifiers there are powerful. We can patch into the main system from the lectern. It will be locked down for the night, Taeshik said. I have override codes for after-hour research, June replied. We go now, before the fear out there gets worse. Before anyone realizes what we're doing. They gathered their things. The data crystal fragment, the ring, the files containing the ancient graduation symphony. It felt like carrying pieces of a bomb. Kalen watched them. I cannot help you with this. My species, we are observers, keepers of the secret. We vowed never to interfere, lest we attract the parasite ourselves. But I will watch, and I will hope that the seed they planted can grow in time. He gave a slight, respectful bow to Soo-hyun. Good luck, heir. The three humans left the lab. The hallways of the university were quiet, but the quiet felt wrong. It was a watchful, anxious quiet. They passed a few students who jumped at small sounds. A cleaning droid sparked and malfunctioned in a corner, its lights flickering wildly. The universe had changed. An hour ago, they were scholars of a dead past. Now, they were the only doctors for a sick present, trying to remember a cure from a dream their whole species had forgotten. They walked quickly, their footsteps echoing, carrying the last hope of a lost empire in a student's backpack. The university at night was a different place. The bright, hopeful energy of the day was gone. The long hallways were lit by soft, dim panels. Shadows pooled in the corners. Every sound seemed too loud. The click of a door. The distant hum of a generator. It felt less like a place of learning and more like a maze they had to cross. Ji-yoon led the way. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She held her datapad like a shield. Tae-shik walked beside her, his eyes constantly moving. Soo-hyun followed just behind, her hand in her pocket, fingers tight around the ring. It felt warm, almost humming. They turned a corner and saw two security guards at the far end of the corridor. The guards were talking, their voices low and tense. One gestured sharply. The other shook his head, a movement that looked more angry than sad. "Just act normal," Tae-shik whispered. "We belong here." They walked forward. As they got closer, they heard the guards' conversation. "Total nonsense from the orbital crews. My brother says they're seeing things. Hearing whispers in the comms. They're locking down sections over nothing." "It's not nothing," the other guard snapped. His hand was on his stun baton. "The alert came from the council level. Something's wrong with the net. It's making people." He trailed off as he saw the three approaching. His eyes narrowed. "Can I help you?" "The building is closed for general access." Ji-yoon put on her best professional smile. Felt stiff on her face. "Dr. Park, Archaeology. This is Dr. Kim and my research assistant. We have an override for the Starfall Auditorium. We need to run a late-night data simulation on the main displays. Critical timing for a galactic alignment correlate." She hated the lie, but the technical words usually worked. The suspicious guard looked at his partner. The first guard just shrugged, his mind clearly on his brother in space. After a long moment, the guard with his hand on the baton nodded. "Fine. Keep your codes logged. And make it quick. It's not a good night." They moved past. June felt the guards' eyes on their backs until they turned another corner. "Their fear," Soo-hyun whispered. "It's already here. In the city." "The parasite doesn't need to be in the room," Tae-shik said grimly. "It just needs to plant a seed of unease. The mind does the rest." They reached the main doors of the Starfall Auditorium. June pressed her wrist comm to the panel. It beeped, flashed red, then green. The heavy doors slid open with a sigh. The auditorium was vast and dark. The only light came from emergency strips along the floor, casting long, thin lines across the empty seats. The giant screen at the front was a black void. Their footsteps echoed in the huge space as they walked down to the lectern. "Okay," Ji-yoon said, her voice swallowed by the darkness. "Let's move fast. Tae-shik, you access the link's main feed through the lecturer's terminal. I'll patch in the data crystal files and the symphony. Soo-hyun, the ring is the physical key. We need to place it in the bioscanner port. It might authenticate us as something other than human." They got to work. Tae-shik's fingers flew over the lectern's controls. Holoscreens flickered to life around them, showing complex network diagrams. "I'm routing our signal through every academic and cultural subnode I can find. It won't be as strong as a planetary broadcast, but it should hit most major cities." Ji-yoon connected her datapad. She pulled up the Joy memory file, the graduation ceremony of the luminous being. It wasn't just a video. It was a data-rich recording of emotion, of light frequency, of harmonic resonance. She also cued the hundreds of linguistic and artistic patterns they had decoded. Soo-hyun stepped up to a small, round port usually used for scanning biological samples. She took a deep breath, pulled the ring from her pocket, and placed it gently inside. The port glowed blue, scanning it. For a second, nothing happened. Then, the entire lectern console lit up with a light that was not its usual white. It was a soft, gentle silver blue. Symbols flickered across the screens. Not human code, but the flowing, elegant script of the silent compact. "Access granted," a synthetic voice said. But it was not the university computer. The tone was different, soothing. "Welcome, scattered air." Query: purpose of broadcast. They stared at each other. The system had recognized the ring. It was speaking to them. "We need to broadcast this file," Jiyun said, pointing to the symphony. "To all humans. To remind them. To create unity. An entity seeks to bring discord. We must answer with harmony." The system processed this. The parasite signature is detected approaching. Broadcast of core identity is a valid defensive protocol. Warning. Signal strength of recipient species is estimated as low. Coherence is poor. Risk of failure high. "We have to try," Suhyun said, speaking directly to the console. "Acknowledged, Air. Activating legacy protocols. You must provide the emotional conduit. The broadcast is not sound alone. It is feeling. You must feel it to share it." On the giant screen, the image of the compact being reappeared. It stood before its crystal spire. The symphony began. It was not a song you heard just with your ears. It was a vibration, a feeling of profound peace, of deep connection, of a shared home that had never been lost. Only forgotten it started to flow through the speakers. But it was weak. Tinny. Just a strange, pretty noise in an empty hall. "It's not working," Taeshik said, checking the output levels. "The link is transmitting, but it's just data. The feeling isn't carrying." June watched the being of light. She thought of Min-Soo, out there in the growing fear. She thought of all the confused, scared people feeling a shadow they couldn't name. She thought of the compact choosing to become a seed instead of a monument. She let the feeling of loss, of hope, of desperate love wash over her. She wasn't just listening. She was remembering as she did. The silver light from the console pulsed. A gentle wave of light flowed out from the ring in the scanner. It touched Jiyun's hand on the console. The broadcast signal on Taeshik's screen spiked.
Yihun.
"You're boosting it. It's you." The symphony changed. It was no longer just a recording playing out. It was alive. The notes filled the auditorium, rich and deep. The image on the screen seemed to look directly at them. The feeling of warmth, of belonging, of a shared memory older than stars, grew stronger. Suhyun closed her eyes, thinking of her mother. Taeshik thought of a lifetime of seeking answers in the dust. They let their own memories, their own humanity, mix with the ancient signal. The console voice spoke again, its tone now warm with recognition. Coherence increasing. Primary conduit established. Broadcasting core identity to all air frequencies. In the dark, silent city outside, on millions of personal devices, on public screens that usually showed news and ads, something else flickered. A strange, beautiful light. A whisper of a song no one knew, that somehow felt like a lullaby from a dream. The signal, carrying the echo of a lost empire and the living hearts of its heirs, pulsed out into the night. It was a small flame in a vast, descending dark. But it was lit. The song did not crash over the world like a wave. It seeped in. It was a whisper in the static between channels. A flicker of silver light on a darkened screen. A hum in the background of a worried household in his terraforming station control room. Min-Soo watched the chaos scroll across his monitors. Crew from different sections were arguing over the comms. Reports of system failures piled up. A deep, cold dread sat in his stomach. He was about to order a full lockdown when his personal screen, set to a public news feed, shimmered. The news anchor vanished. In her place was a soft glow and a pattern of moving light. A sound came through, faint but clear. It was not music he knew, but it made him think of Jiyun's smile. It made him think of the quiet peace of a forest after rain. The tight fear in his chest loosened, just a little. He stopped typing the lockdown order and just listened. Across the city, the two security guards who had let them pass were near the end of their shift. The one with the brother in orbit was pacing, his anger a tight coil. "I'm telling you, they're hiding something from us," he said, his voice loud in the empty security office. The other guard opened his mouth to snap back. Then the wall monitor behind them, showing building schematics, changed. A gentle, luminous pattern flowed across it. The angry guard stopped pacing. He looked at the screen. The pattern reminded him of the waves on a lake where he fished with his brother when they were boys. Before the arguments, before the distance. The memory was sudden and sweet. He let out a long breath. Just forget it, he muttered, his anger draining away.
I'm tired.
In a small apartment, an old woman sat alone, frightened by the strange reports on the news. Her screen went silver. The sound that came was like a lullaby her own grandmother had sung, a song she thought she'd forgotten. She closed her eyes, and for the first time all night, she did not feel alone. The broadcast was weak. It was broken by firewalls and misunderstood by software. Millions never saw or heard it, but millions did. And for those who did, the effect was the same. A moment of pause. A sudden, unexplained feeling of connection. A memory, not their own, of a peaceful dawn in a crystal city. In the auditorium, Jiun, Tae-shik, and Soo-hyun were the source. They were a circle around the lectern, their hands near the console where the ring glowed. The feeling from the compact recording flowed into them, and their own human emotions, their love, their hope, their stubborn will, flowed back into the signal. They were not just broadcasting a message. They were in a conversation with a ghost, and the ghost was answering. Tae-shik watched the network monitor. The signal is holding. It's getting through the major hubs. But the power levels, they're fluctuating with us. When we focus, it gets stronger. Then we don't stop, Jiun said, her eyes closed. Her face was wet with tears she didn't remember shedding on the main screen. The image of the compact being began to change. It was no longer a static picture. The being slowly turned its head. It looked out from the screen, not at the empty seats, but at the three of them. Its form brightened. The crystal spire behind it pulsed with light. The console voice spoke, but it was no longer just a voice. It was layered with the symphony, with the sound of wind and chimes. The parasite signature is reacting. It perceives the broadcast as a threat. It is accelerating. Estimated arrival in Earth's cognitive sphere, 23 minutes. A new window opened on the screen. It showed a graphic of the solar system. A pulsing blot of deep purple was moving past the orbit of Neptune. It was not a solid thing. It was a distortion, a tear in the normal colors of space. And it was moving faster than anything should. It's coming straight for the source, Tae-shik said, his voice tight. For us. We can't stop, Soo-hyun said. Her knuckles were white where she gripped the lectern. We just have to get louder, clearer. They poured everything they had into the console. Jiun thought of every student she'd ever taught, every question that sparked wonder. Tae-shik thought of every puzzle he'd solved, every truth uncovered from silence. Soo-hyun thought of her mother's hands, placing the ring in hers, a gift whose meaning she only now understood. The signal bloomed. Across the planet, more screens flickered to the silver light. The whisper of the song became a clear, gentle tone. In the streets below the university, people stopped. They looked up at public displays, confused but calm. The prickly, paranoid fear that had been growing all evening met this soft, persistent signal. It did not fight the fear. It simply existed alongside it, offering a different choice. But the dark thing was coming. On the graphic, the purple blot passed Uranus. It was a storm of wrongness, and it was hungry. It was drawn to the tiny, bright point of the compact signal on Earth like a shark to blood. It's not enough, Tae-shik whispered, watching the blot approach Saturn. We're reaching people, but we're not unified. Not like they were. We're still separate minds hearing a song. The parasite will still feed. The console voice agreed. Coherence is insufficient for a mirror state. The parasite will breach the signal. It will consume the conduits. It meant them. It would consume Jiun, Tae-shik, and Soo-hyun first. Jiun opened her eyes. She looked at the being of light on the screen. It was looking back, its expression kind and sad. It was a graduation picture, the day it stepped into its full inheritance, and she understood. We're doing it wrong, she said, her voice clear over the music. We're trying to broadcast to everyone, to make them still. But that was their answer. We're not them. We're the heirs. We're not one mind. We're billions of different minds. She took her hands off the console. The signal strength dipped. We don't need to make them still. We need to wake them up. We need to tell them not to listen, but to remember. To remember they're part of something bigger. She reached out and took Soo-hyun's hand. After a second, Tae-shik placed his hand on top of theirs. Change the broadcast, Ji-yoon said to the console. Don't send the feeling of peace. Send the question. Send the data. Send the truth. Send the image and the language matches and the ring. Ask them, do you remember? The being on the screen smiled. It was a smile of profound pride. The console hummed. Altering broadcast parameters. Broadcasting core inheritance package. Query? Do you remember? The silver light on the screen changed. The gentle symphony continued, but now, flowing around the notes, were the images. The compact city. The human graduation ring. The side-by-side language symbols. The story, simple and direct, of a lost empire and a hidden seed at IT was no longer a lullaby. It was a story. Their story. And across the world, in billions of separate individual minds, the question landed not as a command, but as a key turning in a lock they never knew they had. The parasite passed Jupiter. The question hung in the air of a billion rooms. Do you remember? It was not a loud question. It did not shout. It simply appeared. On the screen of a tired nurse in a Seoul hospital, between patient charts. On the wrist calm of a fisherman off the coast of Chile, mending his nets. On the wall display in a classroom in Nairobi, long after the students had gone home. The story unfolded in simple images and calm words. A lost empire of light, a great sacrifice, a hidden seed, a ring with a familiar pattern. The nurse paused, looking at her own simple band, a gift from her mother. The fisherman thought of the strange, beautiful stories his own grandfather told of star people. The teacher, locking up, saw the linguistic matches and thought of the odd, shared myths from cultures that never met. The effect was not instant unity. It was not a magical wave of peace. It was confusion. It was doubt. It was wonder.in the auditorium. The graphic showed the purple blot of the parasite, past the orbit of Mars. It was a stain on the screen, moving with terrible purpose toward the small, blue dot of Earth. The console voice gave a calm, terrible countdown. Parasite cognitive incursion in 10 seconds. Ji-yoon held Soo-hyun's and Tae-shik's hands. They were not broadcasting anymore. They had sent the question. Now they waited for the answer from their whole species. 5 seconds. Min-soo on his station saw the full story. He saw the ring. He saw Ji-yoon's research. He understood. He looked at his crew, who were now watching their own screens, their faces puzzled. He didn't try to calm them. He simply said, "Look, just look and think." 2 seconds. The old woman in her apartment saw the story end with a picture of the luminous being. The being's peaceful face. She did not feel afraid anymore. She felt a deep, ancient sadness and a fiercer, more ancient pride. "Oh," she whispered to the empty room. "So that's where we come from." Incursion. The purple blot on the screen touched the image of Earth in the auditorium. Nothing physical happened. The lights did not flicker. The ground did not shake. But a feeling hit them. It was a deep, hollow cold. A soundless scream of hunger and endless loneliness. It was the feeling of a waking nightmare. Pressed against their minds, looking for fear, for chaos, for a crack. It found the three of them at the core. It poured into the auditorium, a silent hurricane of wrongness. It sought to shatter their will, to turn their bravery into terror, their unity into blame. Alone, it whispered into their minds, a scraping thought that wasn't a word. "You are alone. You are weak. You are food." Ji-yoon flinched. The cold was inside her bones. But she held onto the hands in hers. She thought of the story they had just told. She did not try to be still. She thought, loudly and clearly, "We are not alone. We are each other. And we are more than you think." The parasite pressed harder. Then, something else happened. It was not one big thing. It was billions of small things. The nurse in Seoul, looking at her mother's ring, felt a sudden, clear memory of her mother's courage. She sent a thought, not knowing where it went. I remember strength. The fisherman, under a sky now feeling newly strange, thought of his grandfather's voice. He sent, I remember the old stories. They were true. The teacher in Nairobi thought of all her students, from so many different places, laughing together. She sent, I remember connection. The angry security guard, now off duty and watching the story on his couch, thought of his brother. He picked up his comm. He sent a message, simple and direct. I'm sorry. I was scared. Across the world, in a silent, scattered chorus, the answer to the question came back. It was not the perfect, unified song of the compact. It was messy. It was human. It was memories of love, flashes of art, feelings of home, acts of kindness. It was the sound of a seed not just waking up, but finally starting to grow. All these tiny, individual signals, these fragmented memories of being part of something bigger, did not attack the parasite. They did not fight it. They simply were. They were a truth that was the opposite of the parasite's lie. The parasite fed on separation and fear. It found, instead, a galaxy of individual stars, each one suddenly remembering it was part of a constellation. On the auditorium screen, the purple blot over Earth shimmered. It writhed, could not grasp the signal. It was not a single, tasty mind. It was a network of billions suddenly aware of their own network. The chaos it sought to amplify was being soothed by a shared, bewildering truth. The hollow, cold gripping Jiun's mind began to recede. It was replaced by a warmth. It was not the warmth of the compact's perfect peace. It was the warmer, rougher, more beautiful warmth of human empathy, sparking to life everywhere at once. The purple blot fractured. It did not explode. It unraveled, like a knot coming loose. The wrongness faded, scattered by the sheer, undeniable weight of a simple, answered question. On the screen, the graphic cleared. The solar system was just the solar system again. The parasite was gone. Not destroyed, but confused into nothingness by a reality it could not consume. The silver light from the console softened. The image of the compact being smiled one last time. It gave a slow, proud nod. Then it faded, leaving only the ordinary university screensaver. The console voice spoke, soft and final. Broadcast ended.
Parasite signature dissipated.
The inheritance is acknowledged. The quarantine is complete. Welcome home, heirs. The silence in the auditorium was different now. It was the quiet after a storm. It was full of echoes. Jiun let go of the other's hands. She looked at Soohyun. The student's eyes were wide, full of tears and awe. Jiun didn't see a student anymore. She saw a sister from a cradle 10,000 cycles old. Soohyun picked up her ring from the scanner port. It was cool now, just a piece of metal again. And also so much more. So, Soohyun said, her voice small in the vast, quiet dark. It was my graduation picture. Jiun smiled, a real smile that touched her tired eyes. She looked out at the empty seats, imagining the billions of minds now carrying a new, old secret. Yes, she said, because it is all of ours. We all just forgot the day we took it. Outside, the first light of dawn began to touch the towers of New Seoul. It was a new day, the first day of a history they finally knew was theirs.